Hey guys, welcome to That Florida Feeling. How is everybody this week? I hope everybody's good, although it got cold in Florida. The North needs to come get their drunk weather. Thank you to everybody who's interacted with their Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and whatever social media pages I have. There's so many now. I don't even know. I appreciate you guys for keeping up with them because some days I forget. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the friends that I've gotten to make and the people I've gotten to meet just through this podcast. I absolutely love interacting with you guys. The memes you guys send or some of the videos or just the Florida things or the places in Florida. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it. I love when I get post questions and polls and you guys help me out with the frozen pizza question lately. That was great. I really appreciate it, you guys. If you just want to say hi, I love it. Just say hi. Send me an email, thatfloridafeel@gmail.com. If you have suggestions, last week's podcast was a listener suggestion, and I actually learned a lot of cool stuff, and I hope you guys did too. The week before that was also a listener suggestion. So, I have fun doing those. So keep sending them. I really appreciate you guys. If you have not had a chance yet to check out Unfiltered Studios, I am a part of that podcast network, and I highly recommend it. You can find some amazing podcasters over there. You can find almost any topic you're looking for, movies, advice, hypnosis, which I think is really cool. Cindy has an amazing podcast over there called Hypno Wellness. That's a really cool one. Stupid History Minute with Keb, Unfiltered Sports. Show Me Your Trips. Sleepy G's got a good one. There's just some amazing ones. We're adding some new podcasters all the time. I definitely recommend checking it out. KJ&A is another really cool one. I love those guys. If you're just looking for a new one to listen to or just some different topics, head on over to Unfiltered Studios Podcast Network and check it out. You will find some amazing topics over there. Huge shout out to Shelly for telling me about this topic today. We've actually discussed this topic. I hadn't really heard about it until she told me about it, and I started researching it. We started talking about it, and I'm surprised. This is actually still a relevant topic in a lot of circles today, and actually even had a recent update on this topic within the last year. This is really not surprising. The Sunshine State is full of many things. Beaches, tourists, Florida man, snowbirds, and surprisingly, serial killers. That's right. We're going to talk about some serial killers today, guys. Now, of course, we know that Florida has had its share of serial killers, and I've done a few episodes on them. We've talked about some really famous ones. You can find them in my earlier episodes where I talk about the well-known ones from Ted Bundy to Eileen Wuornos. I even talk about the disappearance and murder of Adam Walsh, which is where you get Code Adam, that happened right here in Florida. But I also introduced you to some lesser known ones, including the Malabar Vampire last year. But in this episode, I'm going to tell you one that I just recently found out about, and that's the Flat Tire Murderer. The name is just exactly what it sounds like, the Flat Tire Murderer. And I'm going to have to give a warning on this episode. Pretty graphic episode, pretty gruesome, pretty adultish. So if you don't want to hear bad things, if you don't want to hear a gruesome episode, if you don't want to hear a not nice topic, maybe just see me next week when we talk about all the sunny things in Florida. Because this might be a little upsetting. So there's your warning. Turn it off now. If you're still with me, we're going to talk about the Flat Tire Murderer. And the Flat Tire murders happened through Broward and Dade, which would be now Miami-Dade counties, from February of 1975 to January of 1976, and killed at least 12, started at 12, possibly 35, maybe more victims. They don't really have a final count. They never really determined an actual victim count for this killer. And this murderer got his name from the investigators. They gave him that name after the offender was known to deflate the tires of at least two of the victims' cars when he committed the murders. They believe that's kind of how he won over his victims. Now, investigators suspected that the killer was a white male in his mid to young 20s. He's believed to be well built, mildly to mostly attractive, because, I mean, he had to win these people over somehow. Pretty well dressed, might have even been married, believe it or not. They concluded that he was probably pretty intelligent and possibly a sexual sadist. So, since this comes with warning, i.e. he was pretty fucked up. They think that he would actually, use his charm to win the trust of his victims. Oh, you have a flat tire. How horrible. Let me help you. Let me take you somewhere safe. Let me get you to your home. Get him into his car, and then, of course, never take them home. And they really think that's why he would deflate their tires, to give them a chance to actually talk to people. And of course, he would do that, offer them help, get them in their car, and then they would never, unfortunately, be seen again. Now, the police really worked on this case. They eventually put up a $1,000 reward for his capture. They were also working with law enforcement across the country because they kind of had a working theory about this guy. They think that this man could have been the same one that actually started out in California and made his way across to Florida. They believe it might have been the same person because murders like this actually started in California in the early 1970s, and they stopped in 1973. There were 9 murders of the same kind that were actually reported. And then murders happened again like this in Washington in 1974. 9 more murders. So this guy has an MO. I mean, he definitely has a way of doing things and a way of getting his victims. So they do believe this is the same guy. They also had really sporadic reports in Idaho, Utah, and Colorado. All the victims pretty much looked the same. They all matched each other. The manner of death was all the same. The victims were left kind of in the same places. And mostly kind of the way that they were found, or their cars were found, was kind of all the same. And that's really why they can possibly say up to 35 murders across the entire country might have been done by the same person. Now, no one has proven this. And this is kind of a good theory, but this is also how they got Bundy. I mean, he started out on the West Coast and ended up in Florida and then got caught. So, I mean, who knows? It's kind of a working theory. There's still, cold case murders are never closed until they're solved. So it's always a working theory. And it's a pretty good theory, honestly. Now, in most cases, the victims kind of all resembled each other. They were all unfortunately beaten and raped before their death. He would leave them naked, and he would often leave their bodies either in or near bodies of water. So in canals, streams, or on the embankments next to them. He often left them also in short distances of each other. So really close. That kind of denotes that he might have liked to go back and see his other victims, like to revisit crime scenes. They had a total of possibly 35 murders on record. I mean, again, that's only the ones that they found. The 12 victims that were found only alone in Broward and Dade counties that they were able to identify. Now, remember, that's only the 12 that they found that they identified. Because let's face it, if you put a body of water in Florida, there's a good possibility that an alligator got to it before a human. Did he know this? We don't know. He might have been counting on that. That's why we might have only found 12 of his victims. The first victim was 19-year-old Judith Osterling. She was from Indiana. She went missing on February 1st, 1975. She was out of Dade County. She had returned home from her job at a massage parlor. She was found 2 days later on February 3rd in a canal bordering the Broward-Dade County line. Again, found in a canal. She was missing for 2 days before she was found. Second victim was Barbara David Stevens, 23, close in age. Went missing on February 23rd, 1975. She went missing when she went to see friends in Coral Gables. She was driving a cream olive silver 1973 Camaro. It was actually later found in a parking lot in the center of Miami. At the last store she was seen at. She was found later in February in a wooded lot with multiple stab wounds. A friend actually found her car. Once they found her car, they reported it to the police after finding it unlocked with the keys in the ignition, like she was just taken out of her car. But they did find blood in the steering wheel and dirt on the car. They kind of believe that either a struggle happened, or the killer might have used Barbara's car to transport her body, and then put her car back where she was last seen, because the same dirt was found in her wounds as was in her car. So, possibly a transport. Ariette Tinker was the third victim. She was 17. She was actually dropped off by her husband at the Hippopotamus Lounge on Hollywood Beach in Hollywood, Florida at 1 p.m. on April 9th, 1975. She was found 3 days later floating in Snake Creek Canal, half a mile east of Highway 27 on Miramar Beach. Now, they think she was murdered, but also they don't know if she was murdered or if she drowned. And the reason they say that is they think she was murdered because they don't understand how she could have gotten where she was if she didn't have a car, because it was really, really hard to access how she got to where she was. Although, side note, she was 17 and married. I just find that strange. Again, this was the 70s, so, other things just went. Nancy Lee Fox was 19. She was the next victim. She was seen alive in West Palm Beach, walking to a laundromat on the night of June 13th, 1975. She was found 2 days later on the 15th, floating in the canal parallel to Highway 27 in Broward County. She had been hit in the back of the head with a blunt object and choked before being thrown into the water. Barbara Straber and Belinda Zadar were both 14. These are probably the youngest victims. They were last seen on June 18th in 1975, leaving Straber's home in Hollywood. They were found the next morning by fishermen laying side by side on the bank of the canal, again parallel to 27. So this guy really likes Highway 27. Kind of wonders if he lives off 27. Just 4 miles north of Andytown. They had both been shot with a large caliber bullet, and due to the large amount of blood on the scene, they think they were killed at that spot. They don't think he moved them. Since they were found on the side of the canal, it was wondering if they put up a fight. Robin Loesch was 14, also one of the youngest victims, when she was found dead on July 10th, 1975, by a family who was vacationing from Fort Myers. This is probably the most gruesome find. They spotted an arm sticking out of the Highway 27 canal about a half a mile from where the other two girls had just been found in June. Again, he likes to go back and visit where his other victims were. And it was actually 10 miles south from the other victims. Again, we're really in the same kind of radius here. Robin had been reported missing 2 days earlier by her parents when she did not come home from her summer class. Okay, she had actually drowned. Unlike most of the other victims, she was also found fully clothed. Now, they never actually said if this was his victim or if this is an accident, but she is often still tied to the flat tire murderer, although never fully proven if she was his victim. Still a sad, sad case. Ronnie Sue Gorlin was 27. She was one of the older victims when she went missing on July 22nd, 1975, when she left her Miami Beach apartment to go see her mother at Parkway Hospital. She never arrived at the hospital. They found her naked the next day in Graham Canal with signs that she had been assaulted and stabbed to death. They found her rental car in the shopping center parking lot with slashed tires. One of the many ways he got the flat tire murderer name. Elise Rapp, another victim, was 21 when she left her apartment on July 30th of 1975. She was going to the Hollywood Mall. They found her rental car, a yellow Chevy Vega with a deflated tire. She was found in the same canal that Gorlin had been found, showing signs of assault, but her death, however, was a cause of drowning. So, basically a week after he killed Ronnie, he killed Elise and basically put her in the same spot. Again, this guy really likes to go to the same. So you kind of have to wonder if he just lives in that area or if he just really, really likes to go visit the scenes, where he was. Like, it's very strange. Mary Coppola, who was 15, had come to Fort Lauderdale with Marlene Annabelli, who was 27, from Pennsylvania for a week. They had arrived on October 17th, 1975. They were not found until October 26th when by a motorcyclist in a dump outside the city. They had both been strangled with a rope. This time he did not leave them in water. Michelle Winters was 17 when she was found floating in Snapper Creek in Pembroke Pines on January 11th, 1976. She had been seen at the beginning of January in Fort Lauderdale with friends. It's believed that she probably accepted a ride from the killer because Michelle was known to be a hitchhiker, which was totally acceptable back in that days. I mean, like, that was a thing. That really is his last known victim, which was Michelle. The murders really kind of stopped in 1976 after his reign of terror. I mean, nobody really knows why because they don't know who it is. I mean, everybody was glad. This guy had pretty much Broward and Dade counties, kind of Miami, on edge for the most part. And since, murders don't have statute of limitations, it's still an open case. And of course, police departments do have cold case detectives that continue to work cases like this all the time. Because they don't really want any case to ever go unsolved. Every victim needs to have the rights to have their, case solved. The Broward County Sheriff's Office cold case homicide detective Andrew I'm going to say this wrong, and I'm sorry to this man, Giannino, was actually one detective who had actually been working on it. I mean, he knew that these were senseless killings. He knew that this guy deserved to be put behind bars, and he really wanted justice for all the victims. He also knew that no telling how many victims there actually were, and you never would know since this guy liked to dump people into bodies of water in Florida. Now, Giannino was actually going to retire in 2023, so last year, but he wanted to try one more time. And of course, by 2023, a lot of things had improved since the 70s. DNA had come a long way. I mean, a long, long way. He had some of Darlene's clothes still in evidence. I mean, evidence never gets thrown out in cases like this. And he ran some of it to develop an actual full DNA profile of the suspect, hoping to get a match. And they did. Surprisingly, DNA has come that far where they did. Thanks to great modern advancements and a lot more recordings, they actually knew who had at least done something to Darlene. There was closure for Darlene. And his name was Robert Clark Keebler. Keebler was a convicted sex criminal. Keebler had a criminal history that included armed robbery, sexual assault, aggravated assault that ranged from California to South Florida. Sounds like it, right? Keebler had never ever been identified as a suspect in the case and would not have been had it not been for one man trying for a DNA match. Now, they worked to see if Keebler was responsible for all the flat tire murders as they tried to continue to piece together if he was in South Florida during that time and knew any of these women or girls had any possible connections. Now, they don't know if Keebler did it because they can't quite ask him. Unfortunately, Keebler had already died. He died in 2019. But, at least for Darlene and her friend, there was closure for those families. They was able to bring closure for 2 of those victims for her friend. Now, if you remember when we talked about Darlene, she was one of the younger victims. And so, it was really sad that, people had to wait that long for her to, it's so sad that some families do have to wait so long to even have hope in this, to get any answer for any of this, and I hate that. I hate that some of these people have to wait so long, and I don't know. It's just kind of sad. I mean, I'm glad that he was able to find 2 of it, and he was able to close the case for, let's see, it was actually 3 people. It was Darlene, Barbara, and Melinda. Those 3 people now have closure, and I mean, they're still working to find out if he was responsible for the rest or if somebody else did it. And there is considered that he had help or there was copycats, because that's a lot of victims. But it is a small area for you to dump people. So, I mean, the flat tire murders on the surface are horrible, and they leave so many unanswered questions. Why did they stop? Did he go to jail? Did the person leave if it wasn't Keebler? Can they use Keebler's DNA profile for the other cases across the country since it was from California? Is it possible that it was a Ted Bundy copycat, since Ted Bundy was kind of doing the same thing at the same time on the West Coast? Could it have been Ted Bundy? No, it couldn't have been Ted Bundy. But you know what I mean? Like, could it have been Ted Bundy on the West Coast and then somebody copied him in Florida? Like, there's so many unanswered questions in these murders. And that's what's so hard about this case, is that, yes, we've got closure for 2 or 3 of these families, but, for the rest of these families, there's, there are the cold case detectives who are still working on it. And who knows how many they're actually victims. Like I said, there are, because alligators and iguanas and who knows what else got them before, the police found them, or people, and what poor people who found them. And we don't know, but at least, there are some closure for the families. And you can actually find a lot of books and documentaries and even other podcasts on the flat tire murders. I actually found a ton of information on this. And I don't want to share misinformation. So what I did find, I found in documents and books. And I mean, you can probably speculate all day on, who did it and why they did it. And, they really do kind of begin out of nowhere and end out of nowhere, because they really did just kind of start and stop, and that's it. And you just do feel bad for the families, and I don't even want to chalk it up to that Florida weirdness. It's not even that Florida feeling. But yeah, if you are looking for more, or you want to learn more on the flat tire murders, check out any of the books or documentaries or even other podcasts. In fact, I think there's an entire podcast dedicated to the flat tire murders as a true crime. And of course, they're always working continuously to figure out who else did it. No Florida man today. I think we've just talked about a Florida man enough. I do hope that you guys are getting ready for the holidays. If you do want to just say hi, please reach out and say hi. I'm thankful for each and every one of you, and I'm glad for each and every one of you that you are here. And I hope that we all make it through these holidays unscathed. I do want to thank you guys for listening. You guys do make it just a little bit better for me each week. Don't forget to wear your sunscreen, because it is still sunny outside, even if it is cold. Drink your water, guys. Be nice. Be nice. This is the time we're supposed to share cheer and holiday spirit and whatever else, and don't be that asshole. All right, guys. That's your daily dose of sunshine.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.